Is all set? All right, can you guys hear me okay? All right, if not, plenty of empty seats up in the front of the room. We're going to go ahead and call the Morgan County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Wednesday, May 29th, 2024 to order. We do have a quorum this evening with all members present. Mr. Rumball, would you care to lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Rumball. Gentlemen, a copy of the minutes were provided to us from our last meeting. Were there any changes, corrections, additions, deletions that need to be made to those? If not, open for a motion to approve.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Motion, to have a second? Have a second from Mr. McGrath. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. A copy of the agenda was sent out to us as well. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Open for a motion to approve the agenda.
As sent.
Do I have a second to that? Thank you. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. The agenda is approved. All right. Mr. Peden, would you care to swear in the participants this evening?
All those who plan to speak to the board this evening will accept the written testimony from the witnesses. Please not take the oath and respect the unity and swear to love all truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Peden. All right, our first item on the agenda this evening under new business is public hearing U-24-01. Brian McDonald is requesting a use variance to convert a former church into a wedding rental facility located in an R2 zoning district. The property is located at 532 North Christie Road in Washington Township and is zoned R2. And for this application tonight, I have two people signed up in support of, and it looks like four people signed up interested, and no one signed up in opposition. So Brian McDonald, thank you. So folks, when you come up to the microphone this evening, we ask that you all start off by giving us your name and your address. If you're the applicant, please give us in detail why the board should grant your request. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Brian McDonald. I live at 5890 South Haggard Road, Morgantown, Indiana. My wife is here with me. Her name is Stephanie. We both taught in Martinsville schools most of our adult lives. We're wanting to turn an old church on Christie Road into a wedding venue. Churches around the country are closing. There's a lot of churches closing and other buildings and stuff. And buildings like that need to be repurposed. I believe they do. A wedding venue is not much different than what a church was. The old Calvary Heights Church has performed many, many weddings in its existence, and it already is set up for a ceremony on in one of the buildings and the reception in the other. So it's very easy to basically turn this into a wedding venue. Most weddings are Friday and Saturdays, and they fall between March and September. Our daughter has a degree from Indiana in tourism and hospitality, and will be doing the running of the daily operations if we get the variance. We'll have an employee on the premises during the event from the time that people get there and the time they leave. This is an indoor facility. We've installed new windows so that if there shouldn't be, but any noise and stuff, that cuts down any noise. It's not an outdoor facility. There will be no outdoor weddings so that we don't impose any, noise violations or anything like that to our neighbors. I also have set our time up to our times of operation to be an hour before the noise violations would end in the county. We've set a maximum capacity. The building could hold more, but of 150, because doing my research, I showed that, average weddings today all normally fall below 150. Guests will be in the facility on a weekend from 8 a.m. to 10, and if there was a weekday wedding, very rare that there are, at least in the research I've done, it would be from 8 to 9. Parking areas, the lighting of the parking area will not change from what it currently was. I won't be adding any more lights or anything like that. That would be a nuisance to a neighbor. Let me see. We will be repurposing the signs that are there, and they will not be backlit. So that won't cause any other changes there to anybody, to the viewings, if there's any lighting and stuff like that. I've spoken to the neighbors that are the closest to the property, and I am putting up and have put up some privacy fence to give them more, peace and stuff like that. And then in the back, there's quite a bit of foliage that's already there that gives that privacy to existing neighbors. But again, it is an indoor facility. Will there be people that would maybe want to go get their pictures taken outdoors? I'm sure for photography reasons there would, but nothing will be held outdoors. Let me see. I'll have security cameras on the building. I'll have a gate. It'll be gated when it's not in operation. I know that when I bought that building last summer, it seemed like that would seem to be a little bit of a hangout when you have an empty building like that. Come by and there's cars and stuff. One of my goals, like I said, I taught in Martinsville High School for 27 years. I taught economics, and I've done a lot of other investments and real estate deals. And my goal has always been to give people a bang for the buck, and I want to make this affordable. I know that my son and others I know have been getting weddings. I'm coming across a lot of people now that are getting married, and they're very expensive. So one of the goals is to make this affordable for the community and keep the prices down. And that's really it. I think it's a good thing for the community. I think it's also a very good thing to always repurpose buildings so we don't have vacant buildings.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions for the applicant?
Will it be only weddings, or will there be other activities there?
It will be only weddings. I will, I've talked to some of the neighbors, and that was a concern with one of the neighbors, and I said, I agree with you. It's only weddings. I like to keep it simple, and it just simplifies things, and weddings tend to be more formal. I know they can get crazy or whatever, that's why I'm gonna have someone on hand, but birthday parties, all that other stuff can be, so I wanted to keep it nice and formal, and honestly, it just keeps it simple on my side of things as well.
Will there be alcohol involved at the receptions?
There will be if a wedding chooses to have that. I mean, they'll have to have their own, licensed tender and stuff. So yes, that would be available to if someone wanted it. They could hire that out. It's nothing I'm going to provide. I've already copied, in case we use it, where another venue has started something and how they've had their things where that's not on them. You get your own private tender and stuff like that with their licensing and stuff.
Gentlemen, any other questions? No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Stephanie McDonald.
Oh, I didn't need to talk, I just put my name down there, sorry.
Yeah, I pass and
I pass.
okay, thank you very much. All right, in the interested parties that have signed up, I have Martin Woody. Thank you. Pamela Woody. How about Michael? Michael, I can't make out the last name, but you live on Christie Road.
My name's Michael Martin, at 501 North Christie Road, which is the property just across the street from the property in question. Just a couple of things. If this variance were to be granted, does it apply to the address or to the person making the application? My point is that Mr. McDonald's made some statements here that I'm concerned that they might not apply to whoever might purchase the property in the future with the intentions of operating it for the same purpose.
Ms. Parker, can you speak to that?
It runs with the property, so it has been approved by the board, would
understand. Then the items that Mr. McDonald spoke to regarding parking, lighting, backlighting would be a portion of the variance language.
I'm sorry, are you asking us?
Mr. McDonald spoke to the fact he would not be installing any exterior lighting, would be installing fencing. The parking would be within the property. My question is, are his comments to be incorporated into variance approval, or are they just considered verbal commitments at this time?
Ms. Parker, I'm going to defer to you again on that.
So it would be a matter of public record in the future then? Thank you very much.
Sir?
That's all I have, yes.
Okay, gentlemen, any questions? No? All right, thank you.
I will say that I'm glad to see somebody purchase the property, develop it into something, rather than let the building go into disrepair.
Thank you. Vicki Hacker?
I'm Vicki Hacker. I own the property at 2440 East Morgan, which is across the street, literally, from the church or the venue. I have a few questions for Mr. McDonald.
You can ask us, and we can hopefully ask him when he comes back up here in a
Okay.
minute.
What demographics is he actually targeting for his weddings? And what kind of marketing do they intend to do for this? And I need to know how big that parking lot is and how many cars it will hold. If they're going to be making it so that it's fenced in, how many, if there's 150 people at a wedding, will that parking lot hold that many people? I know that he said that he's going to have a smaller venue than the church will hold, but that doesn't speak to the parking.
Okay, anything else?
Yes. I really do want to know what demographics that they're reaching out to target-wise, because I also looked up Morgan County's demographics, and 42% of our county is over the age of 45, and the average age of people getting married in Indiana at this point is 30 years old for a male median age, and females are 29, so that leaves about his demographics from Morgan County about 25%. So just asking questions, and what he thinks his actual amount for a wedding is going to be, because the median age, the median amount of money that people make in this county is about $50,000 a year. So yes, that's another question I have for him.
Okay, all right, thank you. Gentlemen, have any questions for her? No? All right, Mr. McDonald. Do you want to address any of those things? Or you're
Sure,
free
yes,
to?
yes, sir. My wife is going to be in charge really of the marketing and stuff. We will have a website, and we will be using something called the Knot for marketing. As far as the demographics, it's anyone who wants to get married. I don't mind what age they are. If someone is, yes, those might be the ages in Morgan County, and I would hope that we would sell, people from Morgan County would decide to get married here, but they may not. They may want to go to Avon or whatnot, or someone from Avon might come here. We'll have a website of our own, and then we will also be using, again, this other thing called the Knot, which helps. It just links you to lots of wedding things. As far as the parking lot, we have that question I can't tell you right now what it is, but I can tell you that we have a large blacktop area you can see there, and I don't know if people can see the picture. If you keep going past the white, so that's see how the parking lot gets lighter? That's additional, and then where your pointer is right now, That was an overflow parking lot. I know it looks like grass, but it is a gravel, it's gravel and grass, so there's additional parking there. As far as how many parking spaces, I don't know. I know that, you know, that facility did have a lot more people than 150 back in the day, and if you were to go in I mean, that's, the buildings together are nearly 14,000 square feet, and the ceremony room where you would go to church was over 3,000 square feet. And so you know, there back in the day, they had way more than 150 chairs because they offered me to buy them. So I don't know if that really answers your question. Was there another question too that you had? Did you want to know what I was going to charge? Was that a question? I forget.
I don't think that's any of our business as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Gentlemen, any questions for the applicant?
Have receptions, not weddings there, obviously.
I hadn't given that thought. I would probably say no. I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. I would say no because the way I want to do it, I like to keep things simple. I've done pretty well, like just keeping things simple, you know, trying to give people a good price, you know, and things like that. And so I would think that for my pricing that I want to do is they get the use of getting married there and then going over and having their reception. If you start to change that around, then someone might try to say, well, look, will you do it for half? I'm only needing half the building. And I think I just, again, going to keep it simple, like not having it for anything but weddings. And I've been, some guys have given me a hard time. They're like, well, you're missing out on birthdays, and you're missing out on corporate events, and you're missing out. And I said, it's okay. I'm not a greedy person. I think that this provides something. And it also, I don't have to change the building around. I'm going to have it where it's set up for the ceremony. This is already set up for the reception. Nothing's getting moved around. We have the table set. You have the chairs set. Everything is set, and everything's in one place, so there's no moving about and stuff like that. So I would probably say no. I don't believe so. I think it would have to be, because that's the whole convenience of this place is we've went to a wedding. I don't know if you've been to some of these outdoor weddings, and you go, and then they go, now if you'll pick up your chairs and come over here, I want it nice and simple. I want people to have a nice formal event, you know, get married, walk over here, and then go on about their way. I don't know if that answered your question. I hope it did.
I just asked because my children were married in church and then went to a reception.
Oh, I get that. That is a good one. Yes, but I think that to keep it simple, I'm going to do it where you book them both. And if I lose that way, I lose. But at the same time, if I book it, I could miss out on someone who wants them together. But that's something to think about. If it has I will consider that. But I don't know if you need an answer on that for getting my variance, though.
They book it, and it's one price for everything, then they can have their reception at their wedding at the church and come there.
That's what I was just gonna say. If they.
Oh,
Sorry,
guys,
sorry,
we
sorry,
have
sorry.
a process we follow here. We call you up to the podium, go take your seat.
I was getting ready to say the same thing. Yeah, that's a very good point. They could. And at the price, and I know you said you don't need to know the price, but I know, and it's not on my dime. My son's getting married soon, and I was like, how much? You know, and so we are way below that. So yeah, I guess someone might just go, well, yeah, let's just do that. That would be something they could still do. They don't have to get married there, but they would have to book it. Yes, sir.
So, of those two buildings that we see on the screen, the upper building is going to be used for what function?
So the upper building, the front of it is where they'll go in and they'll say, I do's. The back portion of that building is where the bride can get ready and the groomsmen are there, and there's an area for the family to sit. And so, because that's, you know, they're getting ready and they have that till it's time to get married. Once they get married in the upper building, they will walk across to the lower building, and that's where the reception will be. That's where they'll have the food. We are not, it'll be a, what do you call that? A warm-up kitchen only. I'm not having them prepare things. That's a whole different thing. I don't want them preparing food in there. You got to worry about.
All right,
you know,
thank you.
Yes,
So
sir.
from that building where the reception's going to be to the closest residential home, how far is that?
Well, I would say you would go, let me think,
Direct line, how far is it from that building to the closest house?
300 feet, maybe 200 feet. Is that it? I'm not sure. And that would be the back of the building, which is just storage. So you'd go to the front. If that tells you If that tells you feet, I would go from the middle of the left building and then come down, because that's where it's really at. That's the back part of it. About 100 feet.
All right, and who lives in that house?
I'm not sure. I've just talked to him when I built the fence, and I asked if it was okay, and I said, I'm going to set it in, so are you okay with that? I mean, I didn't want to be on their line, so I set it in, and we had a conversation about it. And
So you built a fence between your building and their house?
yes, sir.
A privacy fence?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, that's where I was going with it. Gentlemen, any other questions?
Is there going to be any parking control?
Well, I will have someone on hand, so
Traffic
I would say
control?
yes, yes. You know, we've talked about, you know, if it's not one of us, my wife, myself, if we hire someone, which we probably will hire people to be there on those days too, because we need them there from 8 to 10. Once they get things running, there's going to be a lot of boredom time. So yeah, that will be expected of them to do that and kind of help out. They'll just be there to help out as well. They're not a wedding planner. They're there really to make sure that everything's running smoothly and I'll say legally. You know, if it's getting too loud or whatever, if that was a case, they'll have to shut things down and stuff like that. And I am going to, like I said, I'm going to have cameras not only on the inside but the outside too, to stem any possible problems we could ever have.
Gentlemen, any other questions for the applicant? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we've called on everyone who signed up to speak. Those who passed, we didn't hear. Those who didn't pass, we heard from. At this point, we will enter into the part of the meeting where the board's going to have some discussion here in a minute, and we'll eventually call for a motion to be made either to approve or deny this. But in the meantime, I read the findings of facts as it's called in the applicant's application for their variance. So under the description for the request, the applicant has written, I'm wanting to turn the old Calvary Heights Church into a wedding venue. The church has served in the past for many weddings. The ceremony would be held in the right building, as well as having areas for the groomsmen and bridesmaids to prepare for the wedding. Left building would be used, or would be for the reception. This is an indoor wedding venue. Although there could be pictures taken outside on the grounds, there would be no weddings outside. We have ample parking as well as a gravel grassy area that people can park in. It's easily located off of 44 and 37 on Christie Road. It would be my plan to allow people in the building at 8 a.m., but they would be out by 10 p.m. I will have a person staffed from the time someone arrives to the time everyone leaves. My research indicated that weddings will mostly be from March to October, and on the weekends. On a rare occasion, a wedding could occur on a weekday or in the off-season. Weekday wedding people would need to be out of the building by 9 p.m. As a former economics teacher, my goal is to provide Martinsville with a nice wedding facility for a good price. Then under section 2, and 2.1, it makes a statement that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The applicant indicates that's a true statement. And to support that, has written, this change in zoning would not be injurious to the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. A wedding is a needed service that is most often done in a formal setting. Under 2.2, the statement is the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The applicant indicates that's a true statement. And to support that, has written change in the status of this property will not affect adjacent property owners negatively. I've landscaped and updated the buildings to increase the value. I've spoken to the neighbors that would be closest to the buildings and put up a privacy fence. I have installed new windows on the left building as well as insulated the walls more to assure noise reduction. I would also point out that this building was used for weddings in the past, as well as church services and daycare. Under section 2.3, the statement is made that the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved. And to support that, the applicant has written, although I am not actually looking to change events that were already happening at the property other than not having a religious service, the need for the variance comes from that it was a church that had a variance, and I am being told that it is currently R2 status. Under 2.4, the statement is, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which a variance is sought. And to support this, the applicant has written, if this variance is not granted, it would not only be financial hardship, but emotional hardship for my wife and I and daughter, who have spent a lot of time planning this. Once again, we are only looking to beautify the area, move forward with what is already taking place, and simply doing what is requested to make sure things are zoned correctly. This venue was something that we could all run together and stay connected. I would also add that it would be taking away from our residents who may want to get married locally. And lastly, under 2.5, the statement is that the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan. The applicant indicates that's a true statement and writes the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan. For the technical reports for this application, the health department writes they have no objections to the proposed use variance. The surveyor has reviewed and made no comment. Same with the county engineer. On the staff's recommendation on this, just to surmise on that, they have written that the staff finds there is no unnecessary hardship to justify the use. However, if the neighborhood is supportive and the petitioner is receptive to any limitations that may be imposed by the BZA, this could be an appropriate adaptive reuse of the property. So, gentlemen, we're open for discussion.
Seems that it is not as well planned as I thought it would be, but if we would put into a petition to approve it, I would want to put in there the hours that they were going to operate. We can't put in number of visitors because that's sort of always going to be something we don't know. But not having thought of a reception and not a wedding because of a church wedding or something like that. A little surprised, that's all.
The times have been stated of what their
We have to
operation
put it in the motion, though, I believe.
Ms. Parker, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I don't think we have to, since he has it stated in his application what his hours are going to be, that those would be the limited hours he would be able to operate on.
I believe he stated it too. If I'm-
It's stated,
so
I did not
it's in
know.
the minutes and everything, so.
I would definitely want it that way.
Gentlemen, any other discussion? Open for a motion.
I move that we approve petition U-24-01 with all the findings of fact being found true.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll approve that second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Aye. It is passed. Thank you very much. Mr. McDonald, just FYI, the reason reason why I voted against it is I don't think you met one of the findings of facts, that being the unnecessary hardship. I think that was self-imposed. But good luck to you. I hope you can work well with your neighbors on that.
Killing an apple. I shot myself in the foot, therefore we're gonna get rid of guns.
All right, our next item on the agenda is public hearing D-24-06. Michael Creek is requesting a development standard variance to increase the maximum living area in an existing accessory dwelling unit. The property is located at 6342 Lynn Drive in Madison Township and is zoned for ag. For this application this evening, I have two people signed up in support of, and no one else signed up. So, Michael Creek?
My daughter and her family, I'm sorry. Oh,
Giving us
yeah,
your name and
sorry.
your address, please. Thank you.
Michael Creek, 6342 East Lynn Drive, Mooresville. My daughter and her family have two autistic children, and they lived in Ohio. And we found this property in Mooresville that had two houses on it. And me and my wife moved into the cabin in which we're wanting to add on to. And my daughter and her family lived into the main house, moved into the main house. So we could help with them with their special needs children. The reason why we're wanting to add the 450 square feet to the cabin is we're wanting to add a bedroom and a bathroom to move in my wife's elderly parents. The cabin, the addition that we're wanting to do will have matching. It's not going to be actually logs like the cabin is, but it's going to be siding that looks like logs, so it will actually match the cabin. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Gentlemen, questions? All right. Mr. Creek, I apologize. I don't know if it's the microphone or I'm just not hearing very well tonight, but
Pretty garbled.
did you say that you have two autistic children that are going to be?
Grandchildren.
Grandchildren that are going to be moving into the cabin?
No, they are in the main house. They're already there. My daughter, her husband, and her two autistic children are living in the main house. I am actually living in the ADU.
All right. And so when you build onto the cabin, this is for you then?
No, this is to move in my wife's elderly parents. Her mother, which is 80, and her father, it's 88.
Okay.
To help them also. Just trying to help everybody.
No, I understand. Okay, I just wasn't clear on that. Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions? Yes, sir.
Two autistic children will be living there.
Yes.
I notice you have a pond.
Yes.
Is there a fence or anything around the pond?
There is not a fence on that side at the time. We have the cabin, which we babysit a lot, is the front yard's fenced in. They have all the doors pretty well barricaded to where they can't get through there. But yes, we plan on fencing in to where they can't get to that pond. I know autistic kids are drawn to water.
All kids are willing to go out and experiment, so
Yes.
that's my safety.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Gentlemen, any other questions? No? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Joe Powell? Did you want to speak, Mr. Powell?
He's my contractor. Do you have any questions for him? He really doesn't.
Okay. Did you? I'm happy to answer any questions. Did you want to speak? No. Okay, thank you. All right. again, that we don't have anyone else signed up to speak on behalf of this application this evening. So we'll move into the other part of the meeting where we're talking about the applicant's request, and then we'll have discussion and call for a motion, but we're done taking testimony. This is a request for a development standard variance, and in order for the board to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant meets 3 findings of facts. Firstly, it asks for a description of the request, and the applicant has written adding 450 square feet to cabin for second bedroom, 1.5 bathrooms, and a den. Residential use with the driveway access from Lynn Drive. Daytime construction done by Powell Construction, Pedigo Plumbing, AES, and Citizens Gas. Under the findings of facts, it makes a statement under 2.1 that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The applicant indicates that's a true statement and writes, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The addition of the cabin will be built to all codes by a licensed general contractor and plumber and will not affect the health, peace, and safety of the citizens of Morgan County. Under section 2.2, it makes the statement that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The applicant indicates that's a true statement, and to support that has written the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The addition will match the cabin and not cause any visual disturbances or boundary issues with the adjacent properties. And lastly, under 2.3, the statement is a strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The applicant indicates that's a true statement, and for his explanation on that, he has written, the use of the addition is to move our elderly parents into our residence to be their caretakers. The health department states they have no objections as long as the overall number of bedrooms does not exceed 2. The county surveyor has reviewed and made no comments, as has the county engineer. Staff's recommendation on this is that because the petitioner has satisfied all 3 findings of fact, staff supports the petitioner's request to increase the living area by 450 square feet. So, gentlemen, discussion on this application?
450 is not much that I would think anybody would notice, and I'm for this approval of this request.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? No, I agree, Bill. I don't think this is I think the applicants met the findings of facts on this application, and what they're asking for is certainly reasonable. All right, no other discussion. We'll open for a motion.
Move to approve D-24-06, based on the finding of facts.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second to that motion? Thank you, Mr. Crone. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. It is approved 5-0. Thank you very much. Good luck. All right, our next item on the agenda this evening is public hearing U-24-02. Dale Coffey, on behalf of G. Curtis Properties, LLC, is requesting to amend a condition of a previously approved use. The property is located at 9680 North Little Point Road in Adams Township in a Zone B3. And for this application, I have 2 persons signed up in support of, and no one as a concerned citizen or in opposition to. And I have Justin, is it Boren?
Yes, that's correct. I'm here for Dale Coffey this evening.
Thank you.
All right. I'm much more comfortable in front of a jury and a judge, but Justin Boren, Oliver and Coffee, 59 North Jefferson Street. I would draw the attention here first to the application, and having reviewing it, I think it bears a bit of an explanation. There was a prior use variance, and the issue is that my client had a salvage license. It expired. And in order to obtain a salvage license, he has to have a zoning variance. And the documents provided in the application, the prior variance was conditional upon him screening what would be an 8-foot fence. There were several problems with that and impossibilities, and as such, he didn't pursue it. The main one being that if you're going to screen a mesh, an 8-foot fence in the area, it would be blown away. I don't know if you're any familiar with Airport Road down in Bloomington, and you go and see a high fence the FAA put up. You don't put any screening on it, it becomes a big wing. And so in an effort to try to come up with a more creative solution, my client has found concrete block that can be put up. And in the staff report, there was some questioning about what this would really look like. And actually, as you walk into the building today, there's some examples. So I have tendered, if the committee would so take, examples of what they look like.
Thank you, sir.
There are some different types of these, and perhaps you've seen some of them used throughout the Interstate 69 area, but I've also brought an interior view so you can see how they're interlocking so that they're going to survive the wind. And again, this was the solution my client came up with just simply because the meshed 8-foot fence was just not going to work in the area there where his business is located. It's at the Little Point exit as well. It's a pretty flat area and is quite a wind tunnel. In addition, if you'll take a look at the area that my client has proposed with his concrete barrier, the blue line, he's reduced that in the application because as far as the entire property is concerned, it's all fenced, and putting meshing around the property is not a problem for a 6-foot fence. It's that's the larger, or the existing. It's as we get larger, that's when it becomes a problem. Additionally, on the area submitted here, I want to make sure you all have a copy. This is the proposed changed area that would have the concrete barrier. I'm sorry, okay, I do digital and Dale doesn't, so I had to double check. If you'll see on the photograph, you have the concrete barrier would run from west to east, and then it comes back a little bit to the south. The area to the east of that little dog-legged back to the south would all be cleaned up and not be used for salvage. So the area that will be used for salvage really goes down to that western point there And we believe that this solved the majority of the concerns which were raised, which were the aesthetics as people are coming off the interstate. It is really the only solution that can survive the wind in the area. And it also cleans up any of that area to the east. Oh, thank you. Awesome. Don't burn my eye. So if we're looking at the property there, you've got that line that was coming here, and so we're able to take the salvage and put it all in this area, which would be blocked by view. And we believe it would take approximately 12 months to get the block done. They are heavy. As I said, you saw them out here if you're on the east side of the administrative building. And that area on the blue line to the east would then be, the salvage would be moved. It would be used for parking of his typical work vehicles and the like. The fencing is already there. This area has been used since the 80s for this type of operation. And we believe that this solution, albeit significantly more expensive for my client to do, would adequately solve all of the concerns raised. And as far as an explanation to the staff report, that the concrete barrier, I think you can all understand exactly what it is that we're talking about. It is a financial investment for my client. And again, the purpose of that being hopefully an increased in business with respect to salvage if he's able to obtain the license.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
I don't believe so.
All right. Gentlemen, questions?
I'm familiar with these blocks. How high is he going to go with the blocks?
Sure.
1, 2, or 3?
So he can go 2 or 3. I believe at 3 it would be about 9 feet. I believe at 2 we would just be slightly under 7.
What are the actual dimensions of the blocks?
Well, there are different types of blocks.
What are you going to use?
Well, the specifics that my client, I believe that he said that they are going to be blocks that would be totaling in 3 at 9 feet. So 3
they're
feet.
about 2 foot 6 inches high, very possibly?
I'm sorry?
About 2 feet 6 inches high at best, or 2 feet high?
Well, again.
I've been about 2 feet high.
So you've, again, given the, if, I suppose it's a chicken or the egg sort of question, which is, if you're asking how high do you need it to be? You know, and if you're saying that it needs to be in, say, excess of 6 feet, then that would render the purchasing of a different particular block. If it was a mere 6 feet, then we might be able to purchase 2, 3.
What I want to know is how high they're going to be, period. Not whose type or whose they are, just how high are they going to be? So that we could put this in the motion that they will be that high. If you're going to apply for this permit, we have to know that.
So I would say that it would be at least 8 feet.
Seems awful ambiguous.
I'm sorry?
Your answer to me was awful ambiguous. It was not what I asked.
Well, you're asking a question, and I'm saying that as I sit here, that there are different types of blocks on the market, and there are different types of heights it could be. If there was an ultimatum of it needed to be 6, if it needed to be 8, there are different options that are available. But if I'm looking historically here, and that's what I'm looking at, the last argument was how high. And so I'm trying to not be ambiguous, but I'm trying to offer a flexibility and saying that if the board is going to say it needs to be X number of feet, my client could comply. So I don't necessarily want to pigeon my hole into saying, well, I can only do 6 when I can actually do 9. But I'm just looking historically, that's what this whole argument was about, which turned into a physics problem of putting mesh on an 8-foot tall screened fence that just begs to be blown over in the wind. So I hope my answer is not ambiguous. It's just that there are multiple ways to get there with different suppliers.
Not looking for multiple ways, I'm looking for a specific. Thank you.
Gentlemen, any other questions?
You said they would have this done within 12 months?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Bourne, when we approved this and heard this back, was it October 22? Am I reading that right? And we had a lot of conversation, I remember this that evening, about how high the fence should be. And I think we landed on 8 feet, right? But I think our direction that evening was that the entire perimeter was going to be fenced in with that same fence. Is that your understanding?
I believe that, and again, I have burdened myself with trying to read the record exactly here, trying to find out exactly what that was, and I will tell you, I can't exactly say with 100% certainty if it was all or in a particular area, but I do believe that what is consistent is that it was all going to be meshed in.
Okay, all right. I was here and I'm trying to remember it myself. And I'm not recalling it exactly how that was, but just trying to clarify some things. So now, your proposal is that you're going to start on the blue line, on the handout that you gave us here. And that between that beginning of the blue line on to the north to that building, there won't be any salvage vehicles parked in that area. Is that correct?
Right, where the blue line comes back south is where beyond that would not be used for any salvage vehicles. And just so I'm clear, there is existing fence. To put mesh on that existing fence is no problem at all. But
How tall is the existing fence? Just because the question is
6
probably
feet.
gonna come up. 6 feet.
yeah, so
And would mesh on a 6-foot fence be more sustainable in high winds than on an 8-foot fence?
well, as you of course get higher off the ground, you're looking at significantly faster winds. I'm sitting here been a pilot for 20 years. Yeah, you're gonna, every single foot that you go higher, you're going to get quite a bit breezier. Your surface area exists. Moreover, you've got tensile strength with metal, the metal poles. So yes, it can make a large difference. The point being here is that I think the overarching concern was that the idea was, let's make this look nice. And try, that was, I mean, that's, and so at the expense, and in order to keep all of the salvage out of view, the idea was to come up with this proposal for a concrete block area that would contain the salvage entirely from view along the roadway. As for other things that would be beyond the concrete barrier, that would only be parked vehicles, the likes of which we would expect to see in any sort of business zone for this type. So it's not, there wouldn't be any salvage or any wrecked vehicles out there. I guess I'm pointing out, covering that is not that big of a deal for my client to do, although it would be covering perfectly functional operating vehicles and the like.
Okay. Would your client be opposed to continuing those concrete barriers north from the end of your existing blue line to the edge of that building?
Well, I think that, I mean, he would prefer not to. I mean, if
I can
that,
understand he would prefer
Right.
not to, but, and the reason I'm asking that is because when we had this discussion, the whole, as I understand it, or as I remember it, and when I voted, the whole idea is welcome to Morgan County, you're coming in on I-70, here's our junkyard. First thing really you're seeing coming into the county, right? We're trying to clean it up, screen it. If he went in there, if he hadn't been there already and he went in there tomorrow, he'd have to screen this, right? So if, and I can only speak for myself, but if the board was to approve this, would your client be willing to extend those concrete blocks the rest of the way up? Because I'm looking at this aerial, and I've driven this numerous times. It's pretty hard to figure out what's salvage, what's not. No offense to Mr. Curtis and your operation, but it all looks like a junkyard to me. So, and again, going back to our original intent 2 years ago on this, I think the idea is to screen this from the public coming in on the highway. We're just trying to clean things up. So I don't know if that's a discussion that you want to have with your client.
if you, let me briefly have it, I understand and I follow your reasoning. If you'll give me just a moment.
Yeah, let me check and see. Gentlemen, any other questions for the applicant right now? No? Gentlemen, how do you feel about us taking a quick 5-minute break here and kind of stretch our legs and do that, and we'll reconvene in 5 minutes and give you a chance to confer with your client. Thank you. All right, we're going to take a break for 5 minutes. We'll get going here again. Thank you all very much for indulging me with that.
So, I appreciate the brief recess there. My client has informed me that the units that he's looked at are 38 inches each, and that he would propose those would be 3 high. That'd be 114 inches. That's 9.5 feet. Obviously, with the size of these, there has to be a little bit buried, you know, but we're working, I'd say, you know, an average of 9 feet, 9.5 feet. As far as the proposal, if we look at the map here, there's a fence. It goes just south of the storage unit. He would propose taking that concrete barrier and extending it to that point and going all the way down here. Reason being for access and the like on that particular storage unit. But with those particularities, I wanted to update the committee with his, if you will, proposal and information.
Okay, so about, and I know we're not asking for a survey at this tonight, but how close to that building are we going to be here?
Well, you can see the proposals there. Do you see that fence? Is actually I'm trying not to shake, not much of a marksman, but you can see that there's a fence there.
Right.
And the proposal is that those would come up to that fence line.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Thank you. Gentlemen, any other questions for the applicant at this point?
Did you say there would not be any objection to screening the 6-foot fence that is there now?
Well, yeah, the existing fence, it just putting like a mesh through it. Yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, and then that's something that can be done rather, if you will, easily.
What about putting mesh, it's a 6-foot fence all the way around there where we're describing right now? They're around the Little Point Road? Where we see the red line
Here,
on the interstate, starting at the,
Are you talking
the west
here?
side of the interstate there, all the way around. Is there an existing fence there right now? Since it is possible to drive there and look, just about.
there's fence there.
I guess we've been messing with this since 1922 in October. Nothing has been done, and it's sort of tough to give concessions. And I'm asking, last week I drove from Kansas past there. I didn't see any junkyards. And I know there's some in Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. And I could live with a 6-foot fence with the mesh in it, knowing that it can be insured if it blew away or anything like that. And that's what I would hope my concession would be.
Gentlemen, any other questions for the applicant?
No, we've messed around with this since 22 and there's been nothing done. Like I said, I could live with a 6-foot high fence where that red line up there exists right now.
You want to hold those thoughts till we have discussion on it?
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions for the applicant?
Where are we going and where are we stopping at? You got me confused now. You going from that fence by the building?
From right here to that fence by
Right
that
there.
building.
Okay.
That's where they propose.
Yeah,
They're gonna move it all the
right.
way to there too.
Are we good?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, Gordon Curtis, did you want to speak this evening, Mr. Curtis? You going to pass? All right. We have no one else signed up to speak on behalf of or in opposition to or as an interested party on this. For a use variance. And so it's described the use of the property, type of use, et cetera. The applicant has written the property will continue to be used as it is and has been since the mid-1980s as an auto repair garage and wrecker service, storage, and salvage yard. The hours of operation will not change, and currently those hours of operation are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday, closed on Sunday. Access to the property is from the county road, which is Little Point Road. The number of employees will not change, and currently there are 18 employees. Under the standards for evaluation, section 2.1, statement is made that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Applicant indicates that's a true statement. And to support this as written, this particular property is being used for an auto repair, wrecker service, storage, and salvage yard for various automobiles since the mid-1980s. The property is located adjacent to Interstate 70, and continued use will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The property has housed a viable business since the mid-1980s, and the community has continued to support the business, and nothing conducted on the business is injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. And under 2.2, the statement is the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Again, the applicant indicates that's a true statement and writes to support it. The proposed use will continue to be the same as it has been since mid-1980s. The area adjacent to this property has existed with this particular use since the mid-1980s, and there are no proposed changes to that use. That being auto repair garage, wrecker service, storage, and salvage yard for vehicles. Nothing will be conducted in the future that will be changed, and thus it will not substantially be adverse to the area adjacent to the property. Under 2.3, the statement is the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved. The applicant indicates that's a true statement. To support that, has written this particular property has been in operation since the mid-1980s under a commercial zoning classification. The use of the property has been for an automobile repair business, and wrecker service operates from this business. As part of the wrecker service, automobiles have been towed to the property where they have been stored for a period of time, and even crashed vehicles have been brought into the property where they will be stored until they are moved off-site for salvage value. In the past, the state of Indiana has given the business a salvage permit. However, that permit lapsed. The business is now in need of renewing its salvage permit and must have the appropriate zoning approval in which to do so. Due to the operation of the business for all these years, that condition is peculiar to this particular piece of property. And that is respectfully asked that a use variance to operate the salvage business be granted so that a permit may be obtained from the state. 2.4, the statement is a strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. Again, the applicant indicates it's a true statement. Support that rights. Under current zoning ordinance, this particular site, the operation of an automobile repair business, towing service, and storage salvage yard would not be allowed in a commercial district. This particular zoning needed would be heavy industrial with a special exception. Again, this particular business has been operating since mid-1980s on this particular site. and is considered a legal nonconforming use. A variance is being sought to allow for the use of this property in regard to a salvage business to obtain a permit from the state. A salvage business has been used in the past on this site, and a permit has been issued prior to lapsing. To apply the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship, as this business has been in existence at this site since the mid-1980s. Under 2.5, the statement is the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan. And to support that, the applicant writes, the comprehensive plan outlines the particular use for industrial use. Therefore, the current use and the use proposed under the variance fall strictly in line with the comprehensive plan. For this, staff makes a recommendation, and I'll call out a note here that they included on that the type of screening needs to be clarified. The prior approval is for mesh material on a chain link fence. The petitioner's new exhibit showing the proposed location states a concrete barrier wall. And then for staff's recommendation under finding of fact 2.1, they note, ask if the amendment to the approved use will be injurious to the general welfare of the community. The use was granted with the screening requirement because it was determined to be beneficial to the general welfare of the community, not just because of the salvage operation, but because of all outdoor vehicle storage. States asks if the adjacent property values will be adversely impacted by amending the screening requirement. The use has existed on the site for some time, as has the uses around it. There are almost no property sales in the area, but the assessed value has not declined. Under finding of fact 2.3, they have written, ask what particular or peculiar condition of the property creates a need for the amendment. The petitioner has not clearly articulated a reason for the reduction of the screening other than to say the salvage area will be contained to a smaller area at the rear of the property. However, staff contends there's no real distinction to the casual observer between the outdoor storage created by the salvage yard, the automotive repair, and the wrecker service. Point 4, asks for the unnecessary hardship that occurs if the amendment is not granted. The petitioner's hardship is likely a financial one. The requirement to provide screening of the outdoor storage was a condition of approval, but it was not specific to just the salvage yard. And lastly, under finding of fact 2.5, they've written, wants to ensure that the proposed amendment is not in conflict with the projected development of the area. The area between Little Point Road and I-70 should be considered appropriate for industrial use land, industrial land use. If the same or similar use were proposed for this area today, it would have to screen the perimeter as well. For these reasons, staff does not recommend the approval of the petitioner's request to amend the screening requirement. So, gentlemen, and we are open for discussion on this.
Well, their proposal started in 2022 and are now saying it could be fixed by 2025. And I could live with screening from the interstate, which would be to the west, as I see it, around to where they hit an angle at Little Point Road. I could live with that because it's very industrial out there, and we've done lots of other things out there. And I could live with a 6-foot fence, but they've done nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't know, they have a salvage permit right now where they're not operating with one, but if they would do that with a 6-foot fence, it can be insured to my understanding. So if it blew down, it would be able to be fixed. That I would vote to approve this. That would be when we make that slight curve, if you're looking at this map, and then you make the little angle to the right or to the east, I could pretty well stop it there. I wouldn't have to go down Little Point Road, but like I said, I just come back from Kansas. I don't recall seeing a junkyard that, yeah, you might know it's there, but you don't see it visible. I like Morgan County, it's a pretty neat area. It's about the only way I could approve anything that would be a change. And I think it would have to be done a little quicker than 2025.
Gentlemen, other discussion?
Are we going from the building west?
Well, we're discussing that.
I don't think we need to go any further east, because that's where he parks these cars, his workers. Plus some of that stuff he's got to park there. He uses, if there's a wreck on 70, he does towing, pulls stuff out of a ditch 50 feet deep with a extended reach forklift. So a lot of that stuff is not junk that they're gonna see. That's equipment that you use to recovery stuff with.
Where would you want the fence stopped? Would you,
Well, we talked like going from that building west down to the corner and around the corner just a little feet, right?
With concrete.
Yeah.
I could be happy with the fence.
Huh?
I would be happy with the fence that's screened.
What'd he say?
Happy with a fence.
A fence that's screened,
Screened fence.
you know, 6-foot-high chain link fence with some screening on it.
I think he has.
Don't you have fence up there?
Behind that building?
Hang on a second, hold on just a second. Maybe it'd be best if your attorney came back up and addressed that but come up to the microphone if you would.
In light of the particular questions, I'm going to ask that Mr. Curtis answer the questions because I don't want to misspeak.
Okay, we'll get Mr. Curtis up here and have him start out by giving us his name and address. And Mr. Curtis, we just want you up here to answer questions. You passed on your opportunity to speak earlier.
Gordon Curtis, 10973 West State Road 42, Stilesville, Indiana.
How high is the fence that you get along the interstate?
That is 6 foot along the interstate. There was 6 foot all the way around the place, except up there in the front. It is 8 foot. Whenever we had added fence in there, we put 8 foot in. But from that building west and then all the way back up to the east is 6 foot. And I have no problem putting screening around that. But before, there was a discrepancy about 6 foot versus 8 foot. I can put screening around it, start tomorrow, if you're good with that.
I could live with that. We're talking from the lower left-hand corner of the screen there around to the, basically where there's no 90 degrees or lesser turns up there to where it goes down Little Point. Is that right?
Mr. Curtis.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you come up here and let's look at the map. Maybe that'd be a little easier, and then kind of do it here in the middle where everybody can see it.
I'm just talking about from here. Don't worry about it. I don't want anybody to know my name anyhow. You know, either to here or here. Just screen it.
This is 6 foot all the way
I could live with that.
to here. From here to here. And there is no fence here. Let me see. If this is.
Let's leave it on if you would.
Okay, we come right up to here, and then that fence comes over, and it starts right here. And that is 8 foot fence from here, around to here. I have no problem bringing it, now this here, you can't put 6 foot screening on an 8 foot fence, so I'll have to order screening from here, and I would like to bring it up no further than here. This here is not junk, these is vehicles that semi-tractors and trailers belongs to customers, and these.
But there's no fence on this
Yeah.
blue line here.
No, that fence comes up to here.
Right there,
And then
okay.
right over, and then right up. This is the state line fence. Would be the state line here.
Okay.
This is the state's easement here. all the way around to here.
But there's,
But there's a 6-foot chain link fence here, and then there's a lane fence on the inside of that 6-foot chain link fence. It's about 12 foot tall, but it's just single wire fence.
so there's a 6-foot fence around here.
Yep, comes up to
right
here.
Up to there.
And then from here, takes off and comes up, that's 8 foot. So if you want it screened from here to this corner, I got over 8 foot mesh.
Why don't you just put 6 in it, and call it quits?
I can do that. I don't care, whatever you want. I mean, I have no problem with that.
Back to the microphone, please. You gotta catch everything.
How does it work?
Button right there.
Which one?
That was button right there. Yep.
Okay. Shoot you on the eye.
Nope, you're good. Just push that button and point.
Okay, what he indicated, there's a 6-foot high fence from here around to right there, then it comes down and goes across, and it's 8 foot. And I would be very happy to see just some mesh in there, even 6-foot mesh in the 8-foot fence. It's all up and raring to go, according to Mr. Curtis. We want to make sure he stays in business because there's 18 people employed there.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion, gentlemen?
I think the concrete around would look much better on that interstate side. And, you know, I mean, once he puts that up, he's not gonna have any maintenance. I mean, you don't have to worry about the wind. And I think the rest of the fencing, even if it is 6 foot, just go ahead and mesh all of it. I think I could live with that. I wasn't on this board the first time it came around, so. But that would be my recommendation, is the concrete up to the new, not the original line on our printout, but up to that fence on the west side of that building, and then mesh the rest of the existing fence.
As I recall, when we had this meeting originally, the issue with the 6 foot versus the 8 foot is if you look at a lot of what he's got in there, it's a semi-trailer, it's gonna stick up a little further, which 8 foot isn't gonna screen it. But I think I agree with Jason on that if we did, the applicant's willing to do it and put the concrete in, it's gonna be a more permanent structure. We don't have to worry about wind blowing it out and maintenance of it. Once it's up, it's up. And I think that would present better, probably may help him with security even a little bit more. And as far as the height of it and understanding some of it may be down under the ground, if he's at a minimum of 8 feet through there, then that would suffice for me. As far as the screening part of it goes, if he screens then from I think I called it the north before, but I guess it'd be the east end of that building for storage where he's got an 8-foot fence already. If he puts 6-foot screening in that and runs it all around, I could live with that. I'm with you on the 18 people employed, but on the other hand, if, you know, I look at everything as it's gives and gets. If he's got 18 people there, but somebody else is driving into the county wanting to put a business in, it's gonna hire 300, and they think, oh, this looks like a junkyard, not gonna locate here. We've just kind of stabbed ourselves in the foot. I know that's all pie in the sky, but the county's growing, we're all seeing it develop, and we'd like to see it develop a little further. Just want to make sure that doing what's in the best interest of the citizens here, I guess. That'd be my recommendation.
I agree with you, but he's talking 25 to get that done, and we're talking probably August to get the other done. That was the only other thought I had. I'm not opposed to that idea. It's going to be a lot more expensive than the fence.
Well, I agree with that, but I look at that and say if he'd have done it back when he said he was going to do it, when we gave him that in 2022, it would have been cheaper for him to do it now, even if he was doing just a fence. And that's, the expense of it's not on us, so I'm not really taking that into consideration.
Agreed. Well, I think it's up to,
I believe I'd want them to come back at probably the June meeting next year for a report, make sure it's been done.
agreed.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? All right, anybody willing to put any of this in a motion?
I can try.
I was hoping you'd say that.
I'll move that we approve petition U-24-02 with the additional requirements that a minimum of 8-foot concrete wall as proposed, plus the addition to the fence next to the building in front, with screen being installed on the 6-foot minimum fence around property, or existing fences around property. And the applicant will offer a report to the BZA at the June 2025 meeting, or next meeting that other applications will be heard.
All right, thank you. So I have a motion with conditions. Were you able to capture all that, young lady? All right. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. Thank you all very much. All right.
And I can decipher for you later if you need it. If I can read my own writing.
All right, there was one other thing on the agenda, and that was public hearing SC-24-04. Dale Coffey, on behalf of Cedar Creek Winery LLC, is requesting a special exception to host a one-time 5K run. The property is located at 3820 Leonard Road in Jackson Township in a zone for ag. And then I see there's a note on here that that's been continued to June 24th of 2024. I'm assuming the event's sometime after that then? Oh, okay, all right. Okay. Mr. Peden, do we have a BZA attorney's report this evening? Thank you. Ms. Parker, do we have a plan director's report this evening? Okay, all right. Well, thank you for your well-written staff recommendations as well. Appreciate that. Gentlemen, nothing else on the agenda. Open for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Second. Thank you, Mr. Crone. All in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye. 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 We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.